Velina mai me ke aloha e ka lehulehu, and mahalo for joining Aʻo Aku Aʻo Mai Kulaiwi Series 2021. My name is Lealoha Kaula of Ka'ahalahui o Ole Kona Hawaiian Civic Club of Oregon and Southwest Washington, a non-profit organization with a mission to actively participate in the promotion, perpetuation, and practice of the Native Hawaiian culture and values. And we were founded in October of 2019. Through various programs like the Kamali'i Talk Story, Hāloa Youth Summer Programs, and Malama ʻOhana, we have been able to reach out and build relationships and connections within our communities. Our participation and support of COVID-19 vaccine drives, Mauna Awakia, Black Lives Matter, Count Us In Census 2020, Utopia PDX, Oregon Pacific Islanders Coalition, Pacific Islander Data Modernization Program, Stop AAPI Hate, and so many more have allowed us to grow and actively participate in the change we are all needing to see. For more information, please visit our website, www.kalohcc.org. Now, to introduce this program and today's special guest, I would like to introduce Auntie Louise Wilmes, who will be opening our session with a land acknowledgement of our Indigenous relatives. Aloha e Auntie Louise.
Aloha, thank you. Mahalo, Lei. My name is Auntie Louise Wilmes. I am a member of the Education Committee of Kalo. And today I would like to start off with our land acknowledgement. I live here. I come from the lands in Beaverton, Oregon, the ancestral homelands of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, which includes the Umpqua, the Molalla, the Rogue River, the Kalapuya, and the Shasta. Since time immemorial, the people have relied on these traditional landscapes for their livelihood, gathering roots and berries to eat and plants for weaving and making tools. The fish and game were plentiful. What the lands didn't provide, they acquired by trade. Camas is a very important and valuable and cultural food source for the Oregon tribes since time immemorial, much like Kalo is to the Hawaiian people. Camas is a bulb that grows underground and is harvested by digging. Natives would roast the bulb in an underground oven pit, and some camas pits have discovered dating back at least 8,000 years. Kind of sounds similar to how we harvest kalo and how we cook kalo also. We honor and acknowledge the lands, the plants, the sky, and the waters that still carry the stories of the Grand Ronde people and their struggle for survival and identity. So I also like to start off with an olelo noeau. And olelo noeau is a proverb and sayings that are gifts, direct from the insight of the ways of our kupuna and how they understood the world and the people around them. And the olelo noeau is number 203, and it goes like this. A'ohe pau ka'ike, I ka halau ho'okahi. I'll say it again. A'ohe pau ka'ike, I ka halau ho'okahi. And it means all knowledge is not taught in the same school. In other words, one can learn from many sources. And that's sort of the theme that we're going to do today. We are going to have many sources that are going to talk about how to grow kalo in the Pacific Northwest. I know a lot of you are saying, hey, no can. And that's what my sister said from Hawaii. She said, what, no can? And I said, can, and I'm doing it. And so my siblings unfortunately got pictures constantly of my kalo growing, and my brother said enough already. He didn't want to see any more. But I was very excited when I started growing them last summer. Today, though, we are very fortunate to have I'm going to let him introduce himself and his enthusiasm for growing plants here in the Pacific Northwest. And I'd like to introduce Heifara Wheeler. His pronouns are he and him. And I love it. I want to say this, Heifara, you're a plant nerd. I love it. A food sovereign advocate and a climate activist. I love all those things. And he's originally from Oahu, Hawaii. And today he's going to share with us some basic sustainable gardening practices, the challenges and success of growing kalo in the Pacific Northwest, as well as discuss ideas and strategies for future kalo growers like you. I'm sure you're going to have some questions and some wondering out in our audience for Heifara. So welcome, Heifara. Go ahead and talk a little bit more about yourself. You know, we on the Ellie, we want to know what's up with your life and whatever, and then we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Mahalo e marururo. Thank you, Lei and Louise. Thank you to Kalo HCC for hosting this event. A little about myself. My name is Heifara Wheeler. I grew up on Oahu, specifically in Pearl City. I wasn't really that much connected with the land growing up. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I got involved with Hawaiian sovereignty that really got me just like down in the dirt. And yeah, it's been a love and for myself to be a part of like working with the Aina and working with Tapuna, and yeah, so I think it's a wonderful thing. I moved to Portland in 2003, kind of dropped out of plants until we had the financial crash in 2007, and then I was like, you know what, I gotta grow all my own food. It's like gotta do this. So yeah, I started getting into growing food, and then around I think 2015, 2016, I started just collecting hulis from Hawaii. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try it. Let's see what happens. Because I'd seen, you could see if you go around Portland or even just in Vancouver, you'll see people growing more like ornamental varieties of taro. So I was like, well, those grow here. Let's see if we can get something that actually produce some corms. So yeah, I was the first year was a challenge. I thought I was doing good. I had them all in pots, and I was like, I got this. And then after trying to like pull them out, I was like, oh, I don't got this. I don't got this at all. So it's been a lot of experimenting. So with that, I guess we can start with the slideshow. Yeah, we can cover some. So we'll start off with some basics. I think it's like essential for people who are interested in growing kalo. You have to like kind of have like the foundation work. You can't run a marathon until you learn how to crawl. So let's start with that. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so some basic sustainable practices. Well, we'll just go over this kind of fast, because we're kind of limited on time. But so first and foremost, you do not need a raised bed to start a garden. Raised beds have the advantage of being to allow for soil to be warmer, but just growing in the soil by itself is not a problem. So you don't have to get fancy like all the people on Instagram. You don't need like fancy keyhole stuff. You can just dig a hole and just throw some compost, and there you go. It's key to observe and understand your microclimate. So a microclimate is kind of like the weather that is around you. Like, so if you might live in an area that's like really, might be really sunny. So, you might get like 16, 18 hours worth of sun, or you might be in an area that has like kind of like mixed amount of trees. So then you have like maybe 8 to 10 hours of sun. It's good to notice the direction, and following how the sun moves. For us, it's pretty lucky in the Pacific Northwest, where the rough, specifically Portland, is about the 46 parallel. The change to the winter and summer solstice is like a 23.5 degree change. So, watch that sunrise, see how it hooks, see where it sets. That's a good way to at least get you started. And then also understanding about like, do you live close to the river? Do you get a lot of wind? I mean, do you live up in the hills? Do you get some frost at night? So just kind of like pay attention to those kinds of things. Those are like really key in like your ability to have success. Making your own compost is also essential. You take your food scraps, you can put them in a bucket, mix them with some straw or some cardboard, and then just regularly feed that. Also, dig up some soil, grab some worms, throw them in there. They'll start breaking it down for you. We'll also talk about a little bit another style of composting as well, a little bit further on. Try to use free or found recycled materials to help build and sustain your garden. So, for example, getting coffee grounds from a coffee shop. Starbucks offers free coffee grounds, for example. You can also get wood chips, which are really nice. So there's a company called Chip Drop. You're able to, they'll drop off wood chips to your house for free if you live in like the Portland kind of area. I think they might also be a national, but and also yeah, recycle all your cardboard. We've all been getting tons of delivery from Amazon and everywhere else. So save those boxes and use that for laying down mulch for your garden. Does it work really well? Growing 3D, very good for if you're growing like multiple things at once. So like beans and greens. You know, if you stake up your beans, you're able to also grow greens below it. Yeah, it's a good thing to practice. And the same thing with like also like squash and tomatoes and anything else. Watering thoroughly and mulching helps reduce water use, and this is like pretty key with Kalo. You know, you can Kalo is a thirsty plant. You know, it really likes having moist soil. So we need like being conscious of your water consumption is key. Incorporate native plants and flowers. This helps for, you know, attracting all the good guys in your garden. So ladybugs, praying mantis, they're the ones who are going to attack all the nasty bad guys. So by having flowers, you know, that's what first attracts them, and then they're like, ooh, I like this better. I'm going to eat this guy. Practice rotating beds. This is kind of key for Kalo, especially when we consider like diseases like nematode or leaf blight. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And plant in succession and always experiment. So planting succession means like every week or so, go out there, plant something. So let's go back to let's use lettuce again. So, you know, you plant your lettuce, you wait like another week, you throw some more seeds in the same area, and you keep on repeating that until like the end of spring. And that allows you to have continuous harvest. It'd be cool to also see if we can do this for Kalo. But that's why I also say experiment. You know, it's key to experiment. It's always going to be different for everybody. Not everybody's going to have the same kind of setup. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the challenges. The biggest ones are weather, because, you know, in the Pacific Northwest, we have frost, we have cold. What Kalo really needs, it needs it's about 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the development of the corm. You know, and also since we live in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes we have chances of the weather going over 95 degrees. Once we start hitting around closer to 100, we start seeing that slows the development of the corm as well. So consider again your microclimate for growing. Next is soil and rain. So cold rain will lead to disease, to rot and disease. So like leaf blight and nematode damage. So that like nematodes live in the soil. They prefer kind of like a moist kind of setting, perfect for like the Kalo, you know. So it's one of the bigger challenges. We want to be able to be aware of like of leaf blight, because that can spread to your other plants, and without lead to end up having to use like inorganic fungicides, which, you know, we want to try and avoid as best as we can. Though there is some research about using eucalyptus oil, and ideally we want to try and also consider more genetically diverse strains that have through breeding, so that have a little bit more resistance toward that. So also, you know, much like I mentioned earlier, elevation is also key. You know, if you live in the mountains, you know, you're gonna have to do a little bit more protection, and it'll be a little bit more of a challenge. Whereas if you live closer to like the river, you know, it'll be a little bit warmer, but then you have to deal with like, for example, the strong winds. If you, like me, I live close to the Columbia, so the winds are pretty strong, and that causes a lot of issues with shredding for the lua leaf. When we get shredding, you know, we also have chance for disease. So it's good to consider growing like windbreaks, or if you're doing hot houses, that's also a pretty good windbreak. In Hawaii, they normally use maia, so like these banana to grow along outside the Kalo, so like outside the lo'i. And another thing that I started seeing is people also growing sorghum or other tall, fast-growing crops. So that's another source to try and use that as a windbreak. So for farming conditions, these are next challenges. So you need to have organic mulching to allow for to allow the holding in of like moisture. So Kalo needs moisture. There's no such thing as dry land Kalo. There's only like upland Kalo, and still then they need mulching. So mulching will help the water. Plastic sheeting will help with raising the temperature of the soil. So you can either use black, which is a little bit like holds heat better, whereas you can also use clear. That allows for more heat to transfer in. But I think overall black is a little bit better. But if you don't have a choice and you only have clear plastic, use clear plastic. So low tunnels are, I think, one of the things that really help with season extension. They're pretty easy to make for yourself or also buy from the store. You can find in places like Bimart. But low tunnels are essentially like a little plastic barrier that you put around your Kalo. Then we also have hot houses, which are greenhouses that have artificial heating. And then a greenhouse is just that uses passive. So what I mean by passive, it only uses the sun to heat it up. This is more, those last two ones are more for people who are looking at doing large scale growing. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for anybody who wants to do, smaller scale, with the exception of, doing a greenhouse also helps if you want to grow other things like starting peppers or anything else. So rotation of beds, this will help prevent spreading of disease, and then also consider doing cover cropping in between your Kalo. So cover cropping is where we grow something else. It doesn't have to be, often you'll use like, you can use like fava beans, or you can use wheat. You can grow anything inside that bed. And then at the end of the season, before you plant your Kalo again, you chop it all down and then you mix it into the soil. This will allow for better pest management, and also helps prevent like weeds from growing. So even though I put this at the bottom, you cannot grow in pots for sizable corn. I'm still experimenting with this one. I have tried growing in 5 to 7 gallons, and I have not had that much success in development of corn. I'll get like something like the size of my thumb. But this year I'm going to try with a half barrel, so like 25 gallons. I want to see if it's possible, but as of right now, I haven't had any success for the corn. If you're growing leaf like luau, it's perfect. If you want something for like more of an ornamental sense, growing in pots is perfect. I guess we can go to the next slide. So here's just a basic rundown for Kalo. So depending on the variety, it'll take anywhere from 200 to 320 days. So like our shorter season varieties would be like Manaulu, Lehua Ele. Those don't take about like 7 to 8 months for growing. But considering with our growing season, more often than not, you're going to have it's going to have to grow over the course of the following year if you want to be able to actually harvest the corn. So much like I mentioned, upland variety cultivation and short season varieties are ideally what we want to start off with if you're growing. If you're able to get other varieties, don't hesitate and try them. I understand it's a little hard to be able to choose where you get your hulis from. If you do have connects back in Hawaii, that is always nice. If you're able to go back to Hawaii now that travel restrictions are eased up, you can go through like the USDA and actually take back hulis as long as they're free of and clean of soil. That's how I did all mine. You just bring them into USDA, you check them out, and they box them up for you, and then you can just take them on the plane with you. So much like I mentioned, the second year is if it's left in the ground. So that's when you're going to be able to get the edible corm, so the Kalo. And you cannot transplant once it's developing corm. So you could start hulis on the inside, like get them to start rooting. But once they start rooting, you're going to want to get them into the ground. You cannot disturb them. They're very sensitive when it comes to these kind of things. I think that growing them, if you want to like start them in pots for like doing huli production, so that's a great way to start off. So you can put, if you want to grow them in pots and you feed regularly, you can be able to produce multiple hulis, like depending on the variety. Like I mostly grow palehua, and I also grow bonlong. So bonlong is more like a leaf taro. that one produces, will have a decent amount of shoots, and that which you then can use as your hulis. Palehua also was pretty good. This year I'm also going to try Lehua Maui, which is a hybrid, also a upland variety, but can also be used for lo'i. So like mentioned before, that there's high water use without mulching. So consider mulching beforehand. For those who want to try taro but don't really have the access to hulis or even just like whole kalo, you can go to the most Asian markets have edo, which is like the small taro. It has similar needs, but one advantage of the edo is that it's more cold tolerant. It's cheaper, easier to find material. I mean, you can go to the store. I think you can find it for like $1.20 for like a single one. So they're good practice for people to like dialing in growing kalo, but also experiment. I'll go ahead and I think I could take a break. Let's see. Kalo HCC also growing Lehua Maui. Awesome. I'll break away and I'll have let's see, does anyone else would like to speak? I know, like I said, I could just like rant forever and try and do the speed run.
Lei, why don't you show my slides and then you can kind of comment on what the heck I'm doing. and then I'll share some of my questions that I have too. So why don't we do it that way? Thank you. So the brand, the type that I'm growing is Heifara, is what you said. Was it Bunlong? Is that what you said? I can't.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's the variety, and this is the person I got my little starts from, and she grows in what's amazing in her backyard in her growing boxes. She is surrounded by you can see a lot of fir trees, and so I was surprised there were so many trees around her property, and yet she was able to have this kind of production. And so she actually grows out of garden boxes, and you can see this is about June of last year when I went over to her house, and they were going nuts. She also recommended to me this type of organic starter food, and also the organic fertilizer and plant food right there that she does. And she was rotating and doing some, you can see one box is a little bit less because she was doing some digging and some transplanting and making more boxes. So this is kind of how it all started, and she was able to give me some start. So go to the next slide, Lei. And with that, I ran home and immediately dug, like you say, I thought I just dug out the dirt and the soil and prepared a bed and kind of looped it up a little bit and kind of mounded it up so it wouldn't collapse. And over on the left is the starts that she gave me. And just like you said, I just put them in the ground, and we proceeded to water, talk. I have a full south yard with no trees. So it gets sun from, right before sunrise all the way till about in the summer up until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's got a lot of sun. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Next. So then I decided, like you say, I said, I better do some mulching, and we got some mulch. And we, because it was getting kind of hot, just like you were saying, it was getting a little bit hot. And so I was worried about my babies. So we made the husband go get the mulch, and we put it on top. And you can see how it progressed. And when I put the mulch on, things just went nuts, started to go nuts, and started to, the leaves started to get bigger, and they weren't all just tiny little guys. So that was just through watering. I put some tomatoes on the other end. I'm not doing that this year. The tomatoes fought with the kalo, and I fought with all of them. But so this year I moved the tomatoes to a different spot. I thought, hey, I could have make lomi salmon with the tomatoes and the kalo. I could make. That's what I was thinking. but there was a big fight between the tomatoes and the Kalo, and I was doing lots of cutting everybody back. So Heifara, what do you think about when you do a Kalo? What plants do you grow sort of close by, or do you not do that? Probably you don't do that.
I actually do. I actually will grow things close by. I have little like ponds near my my Kalo, so I grow like wapato, and
you do? Hey, cool.
Yeah. So those are some of the things that I grow. I don't, like you said, how you're growing tomatoes next to your Kalo. Kalo are heavy feeders, and so are tomatoes. So they will compete for the exact same things. They're both nutrient pigs.
Right,
so,
right.
So it's good that you recognize that.
Yes, and it was such a good tomato. They actually everything turned out fine, but I moved them this year. The tomatoes are in a different spot, so. But I was getting real excited and with the leaves, and I just couldn't wait for them to get big so I could cook them. So go on to the next slide. So there we go. You can see it's later in the summer. I started with these leaves at how you can see, according to my size, I'm a short person, but from my shoulder down to my waist, they started to get big. And that's when I said, all right, I'm cutting you guys and we're making some lau. And I was able to make about 9 or 10 for each cutting as I went through and started to cut the big leaves and started to make lau from that. And then they just kept producing, and I've never made so much lau in my whole entire life. You know, week after week after week, it was to keep it going. And I was trying to use the leaf as much as possible and using even the small ones to put into the lau. But it was a great experience. Is this the last slide? I think it is.
I say good choice on growing the marigolds next
to
them.
Oh yeah.
So any sort of flowers really helps for, again, attracting any of the beneficial insects that will like eat all the bad guys.
Right.
You gotta eat the bad guys.
Yeah. So the marigolds, that was the trick when I started gardening. Someone here up in the Northwest said, put marigolds in your garden to keep some of so that has been something I've always used. And it makes it also look bright and happy and cheery. So that's going in to this year also. So next slide. And then of course, at the end, you could see it yielded, a big old tub full of the leaf that, could make it about 9 lau, just stuff them as much as you can. Like I share with a lot of people. I also grew collards and added them into the lau. It was very And so you could just really, like you say, experiment with food and experiment with vegetables. And I put a little picture there because what surprised me, Heifara, was those long red shoots that kind of came out of the ground. And I thought, what the heck is this? So could you explain a little bit how this variety actually grows? Because it seems like it just sends out all these shoots everywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So bonglong is considered a luau variety. So it's mostly grown for leaf growth, and that's why it's shooting out. It's doing little runners.
Right.
So that's what it's intended to do. So the overall Kalo will not ever be large. You can use it for they're more like a 12-month variety if you want like a sizable Kalo, and that becomes like the logistics of like doing low tunneling and all these other things, other experiments. But they're perfect for growing for leaf. It is recommended that you do not take more than like a third at a time. So, that way it's able to like regenerate.
Right. So the bigger ones I would take. And then towards the end of the summer, I tried to cut as much as I could out and make a lau. And then of course, at the end for the winter, we put them to sleep with some leaves and more mulch. And they went moi for the summer. And and now we cleaned it off, and now they're starting to come up. And I was interested because you talked about leaf blight, and I want you to talk. I hope you talk a little bit about that, what that looks like, because I have a feeling I might be suffering from that. So thank you very much for letting me share. But let me say, if you get, like you said, just dive right on in, and it's a discovery. It's a fun discovery every day that you would go out. That's what the best part about it was, going out and just discovering, whoa, what is this? What is this? What is this? And then I was not afraid. I'm not afraid to dig something up and look at it, just wonder what this looks like. And I would just take a plant out to take a look at it because I had so many anyway. So I thought I can, you got to know what's going on in the ground, right? So you got to dig it up and look at it because I've never done this, even in Hawaii, never have done, didn't grow Kalo even there. So any advice to, especially along when you talked about some of the challenges. Now this is the second year and they're all having these little holes in them, like some bugs are in there eating them up. And I know that I don't see the moths flying around like the ones that like to attack the collards. So I'm thinking, okay, we got a problem here. So talk about that if you can.
Yeah. So more commonly, you'll see like little white bugs like crawling on the stem. So those are actually put there by ants. Those are aphids, and they really like the shoots of the ha of the kalo because there's a lot of like sweet sugars. You have to be on top of it. Really all you got to do is like go up to it and just run your finger on it and just like crush the bugs. That's like the best way to take care of them. You could do soaps and all these other things. I think they're not as effective as just going at it yourself. Nematodes are moreover like the one that will actually destroy the kalo. So you'll see like these little like clear worms. And I don't think I actually covered it. I actually had a large, I think I lost almost like 50% of my my crop because I didn't know it. I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, like my kalo's looking kind of sad. Okay, well maybe I'll just keep on feeding it compost, see what happens. And I just further accelerated the rot. So but it's good. Now I recognize it and now I know it. So I'm moving my beds. I'm switching up the bed that I was gonna move them anyway, but I wasn't sure what it was. So I was just like, oh, I'll probably just get over it. We are not invulnerable. We all have it's all experimentation, and these are fairly new because I never saw it in Hawaii. I never but it is more so. It is common in wetter areas, as I did a little bit more, done more research throughout the years. Is that especially leaf blight and nematode kind of go hand in hand. So once you start seeing leaf blight, you probably have nematodes, and leaf blight will look like yellowing, and it'll be so you start seeing that the stem will start getting really, like the hull will start getting really soft, and that's how you have leaf blight, and you got to get those out of there as soon as you can. It's ideal that you have a decent amount. You want a good amount of genetic material. So if you're a person who only has like 2 or 3, you're kind of like lost. But it's good to pay attention to your bed. Make sure it's make sure that everything's going well.
Well, I'll see you later. I have to go. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And then
no, I'm just kidding. Thank you very much. But I'm gonna have to do something this week, this evening, get my husband and I out there whacking some of them. Some of them are looking really sad and they need to get out of there. So thank you very much. So continue on with your presentation.
I think we could. I really only have like what I want to share for the future. And if I think there was one more farmer, isn't that correct? Is it Mari?
Mari.
Yeah. Would you like to share?
Sure. Aloha, I'm Mari Helenihi with Kalo Hawaiian Civic Club. I am a member of the Education Committee, the Political Action Committee membership, and operations. And I work closely with Lei in all of our little ventures that Hawaiian Civic Club is part of. But we as a family, the Helenihi ʻOhana, we have been growing Kalo in our garden for about 4 years now. So same strain that Auntie Louise has, we have been growing here. And so each year we do put them to sleep the same, we hibernate them. But right now where we're at is here, we're preparing for the season. So we've put in water lines and we have it on timer. So we run it in the morning and it's just really doing its own thing. And so it's a little bit bigger than what you see here in the picture. But we have 3 beds growing and they're all really happy with new soil that we just put in. And so each season we are able to harvest about 4 times before the fall sets in with the frost. Next slide, please. So like he was saying, the leaf stalk, it's so amazing just to see them grow. Like Auntie Louise, every morning we go out into the garden and just look at the growth and how, the terminology ʻOhana, it comes from the Kalo, and it truly, the whole production of Kalo is just amazing, and how it is like one family. The older ones will care for the younger ones, and you just have to give it a little bit of sun, a little bit of water, and they do their own work themselves. And this is the same strain, so we do make a lot of lau, but the corm at the end of the season, they're about the size. Maybe the growth is about the size of our hand, so we don't eat them for the corm. We just keep them um, in the dirt. And then the next slide, that's my last slide, just to show how they look. Yep. So they come out looking, just beautiful in the sun. They like to follow the direction of the sun, from the early morning, then towards the end of the night, they're trying to get as much sunlight as they can. So again, we're just always in awe of how beautiful the growth of these kalo are. We went from having one garden bed being all Walla Walla onions and others having squash, but we've really dedicated this year to just growing kalo in all three of our beds. That we have to we're about to build some more just so that we can grow other food. But yeah, we're just in love with our kalo. So we fortunately, ours are looking pretty good. We don't have any critters or anything attacking them just yet. So, but when they do, we do just spray them with water. We grow organically, so we don't like to spray with anything. So it's just water, and like you said, we just we'll flick them off with our fingers if we find little bugs on there. So that's about it for me.
Ah, they look beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a family affair. The water lines, our older daughter, she's a pro at, at pulling the lines, and so it's nice to be able to make it self-sustaining, where all we do is set the timer and make sure that it's running and not clogged. So yeah.
Nice. This year I'm finally going on to drip systems. I have like a half acre. So and I've like hand watered for this whole past year. I've been improving the soil to make sure that we'll be able to retain more water, but I want those 2 hours a day back or 2 hours every couple of days. So yeah, I've actually got a drip system set up, so I'm excited to actually get that implemented.
Nice. Yeah. I'm excited to hear more about what you do with your kalo.
Yeah. So we can go back to sharing. So one of the things that I can go back to, we can actually move to the next slide. So I'm going to drop in the link. One of the benefits I've found for growing kalo is Bokashi Composting. So I dropped a link inside that. So Bokashi Composting is a Korean style composting. It is a more acidic form of composting. And it is, I find that it really works out well for growing kalo if you're trying to go for the corm. Like most people were saying that, you're really only going to get them around the size of your hand. And there's this want to try and like doing more like season extension kind of stuff to see if we can actually get to the point of, you're getting like the kalo that's like this big, like the size of a baby. But I found that Bokashi has been pretty helpful in being able to help with the corm development. Anyway, back to the slide. So I think the importance for, for the future of kalo growing in the Pacific Northwest is understanding climate change. We have to be observant of like weather patterns, wind, rainfall, snow, fire. All this affects us regardless if we grow kalo or not. We have to, one of the biggest things that I would like to see if people begin to start growing kalo is learning to mimic the conditions to induce flowering. So, and creating newer varieties for us that can handle that are a little bit more cold tolerant. As I have both Manaulu, and then also, what was the other one that I had? I had Lehua Ele. Both those varieties are shorter season, are more drought tolerant. So they have some nice abilities. So if we're able to, like, through season extension, trying to induce flowering, we can potentially crossbreed those and get them more suited for our environment. You know, it's not like something that we can just do once. You know, it takes a few generations to try and get getting new varieties going, but it is a, you know, it's a possibility. It's a dream that I would like to see. And much like I mentioned before, disease resistance, you know, because of our conditions, we're more likely to see these kinds of diseases. You know, so having so back again, but, you know, going for shorter season and drought tolerance would be key. And with that, you know, having, I'm hoping to do a little bit more larger low tunnel, so I can try and see what's the longest I can do. Kalo is interesting because it is actually a subtropical plant, so it can actually take down degrees to close to freezing, but it will not produce the corm in that level. So if we're able to try and do larger scale kind of growing and see if we can do like the full 12 months, you know, that'd be awesome. Things I would like to also see, you know, like improvements in like aquaculture, so we can actually grow low E varieties. Right now, I don't think it's very feasible to grow low E varieties. It's just, again, with our weather. But if for those who aren't familiar with aquaponics, I'll go ahead and drop that inside the chat as well. So just give you like a basic idea. So it's a closed, what they call a closed loop system. So you're basically emulating a river. With that though, is people who have grown Kalo in aquaponic systems have only been able to grow it for leaf. So if we're able, you know, I think the, you know, changes need to be like, how deep of a bed do you need to in order to create a low E? You know, obviously you're gonna have to grow it in a greenhouse. It's probably gonna have to be heated. In this process, you also have fish growing, or you grow, you know, you have turtles or anything else. People like doing fish because then it's like, oh, you get like, you know, you get your meat, and now you got your and their poop goes through a cycle of water that's then filtered, and then it goes into the plants. So a pretty interesting system. I really like it. Really cuts down water use by like 97%. Yeah, it's definitely one of the future technologies for growing. I really would like to see a network of breeding and growers for genetic diversity. So not only from like the Pacific Northwest. I think it'd be really cool to start reaching out to growers in like Aotearoa and also Rapa Nui. They both have extreme, you know, so like Aotearoa is more subtropical, but they're able to grow Kalo in like the most northern parts. If you're a plant nerd like me, there's a paper that I recently read about growing Kalo in Aotearoa. They're slowly trying to get it. I'll drop that in chat if anyone wants to nerd out on that. But it's pretty cool to see what they're able to do. So right now they're trying to grow in the like Waiko river systems. Yeah, they're also seeing some success. For them, they also have to deal with frost. So I think it's really interesting to collaborate with them. In Rapa Nui, they also have to deal with drought tolerance and also wind. So through that, they've done like process of like, you know, rock gardening. So they lay down rocks to help like capture the moisture, and also build up like little rock facings to help. I had to go to Aotearoa. Let's do it. Aotearoa is absolutely beautiful. If you've ever been there, I highly recommend it. But yeah, Rapa Nui, they also do, they build walls around their Kalo, and that allows for the soil to heat up a lot more, and also break the winds. I think also in parts of in Hawaii, maybe it might have been on, maybe it's on Kauai, on the leeward side, on the northern, they have some walls that were like that as well. I got to try and find that information. I remember seeing a documentary about that, but it was pretty cool. So, you know, we've all done, you know, all our peoples have like a shared common knowledge, you know, when it comes to growing Kalo, because it's very important for us. And for that one, I'll also include another nerd note, because why not? You know, if you like reading papers like I do, you got to find out what other people are doing, you know. And I think go last slide, and then I think that's just like some sources that I would recommend for people to check out. So the Taro varieties. So this is a really cool one. You can get, so that's where these like pictures of like the Lehua Ele is from, and then the yeah, they have all where you can find them, how they grow, what kind of conditions. So like very informative, very, very informative. I also recommend looking at this Upland Taro, it's presentation by Glenn Tebbs. It is he's in Molokai, and it is definitely like it's some knowledge. Like the guy knows his stuff. Back again, there's also the Bokashi Composting Guide I recommend. And then for those of us who are interested in longer season growing, interested in like how to build like hoop houses, or also doing like passive solar kind of greenhouses, the 4-Season Harvest by Elliott Coleman is a fantastic book. I recommend it. He mostly grows European varieties, but he lives in the other Portland. He lives in Portland, Maine, where they get frigid cold weather, and he's able to grow tomatoes in January in Maine. So he was like one of my inspirations to like, it's like, man, if this guy can grow tomatoes there without having to like pump in like heat, it's like, why can't I do this? Go Kalo here. So I recommend that book. You can also check his stuff on YouTube. He's a pretty interesting dude. And with that, I think that's it. We've gone over time. I'm sorry. Try to speed run it, but I like ranting, so it's my fault. Anybody have any questions?
No. You're just great. You're great. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to kind of walk through our listeners here today. They want to start with their Kalo, and I'm gonna ask you to walk through what you would suggest to them. I mean, I know it's May. It might be, I don't know. Last year I put mine in June, so, and it did fine. But also places where they could possibly start getting some starts. I thought I would be able to share some starts, but after what you told me today, I think I'm going to have a little problem with mine. So I'm thinking like, oh, I don't know if I'm be able to share. But so kind of walk people through. I kind of dive into things, but I know other people might want to figure out how can they start preparing their beds or whatever. And if I have any starts to share, I'd be happy to share. But can you how would you get somebody going?
So for getting people to start going, for Bung Long, you can find that mostly at the Asian Mart. They do, but you have to be really selective. You will see often that they'll sell malanga, which is a different plant, but you'll often see that listed as taro. And same thing like Edo, you will see that listed as taro. So sometimes you'll see it listed as giant taro. You can get that. You can get that going. That is probably the easiest way to do it. It's not, it doesn't guarantee that it's organic. It doesn't guarantee that it hasn't been sprayed with pesticides. It doesn't there's all those things that you have to consider when you buy it from the store. You can purchase online. There are people on Etsy and also eBay that sell huli and also sell kalo that you can buy from Hawaii. Be selective. You got to be like, a lot of people again are selling Edo as kalo. So you have to look for someone who actually names a variety. Other ways to do it, for me, the easiest way was having someone in Hawaii send it to you if they go to like the USDA, collect the hulis. That's like a way that you can get guaranteed good quality hulis. So you have multiple options, thanks to the internet. Again, it makes it a little bit easier, but buyer beware. When you do get your hulis, you have to make sure that they're scabbed over before planting them in the ground. This is a way to prevent prevent rot. So yeah, you want to make sure that it scabs over. So you after you if you do a cut, you just let it sit for like a day, and then place it in the soil. Make sure the soil is moist, not damp, not like too wet. Right now, weather is absolutely perfect for growing kalo outside. I pulled off my my hothouse today, so it's like once it's in the 70 degrees, it's good. At night, you want to make sure that if you want to again be more focused on corm growth and less leaf growth, you're gonna want to have that put that hothouse back on. So let's see what else. It's key to focus on feeding your kalo like every couple weeks. So like I was mentioning with like, I think Bokashi is a fantastic one. It keeps the soil really acidic. Kalo really likes more acidic soil. For those who are at least a little more inclined to do so, you can do soil testing. If you have a master gardener extension office near you, those are like a great source for getting the information of who offers soil testing. So we want to, you can grow closer to base, which is like, you know, like 7 pH. A lot of our soil is that kind of level. But, you know, working in compost, you know, like you're digging inside the earth, mix in some like chicken manure. It'll be really hot. But, you know, you want to start that kind of process usually about like at least a month ahead of time. Or you can also go, you know, nice selection of organic bag soils that are already ready to go, that are like the pH is a little bit more balanced. You can find those at, you know, for example, like Portland Nursery, if you live in Portland. Let's see, what else should I cover? I just keep on ranting. Anything else specific?
Well, now that I've grown for a year, so what I'm sorry, this is just very personal. Anyway, you know, what if the whole thing, my whole Kalo is like ruined because of these nematodes and leaf blight? I mean, is there any way to salvage something? I guess salvaging, if you are growing this and it's like it got attacked. And so how do you go about salvaging, or do you just dig it all up and start all over again? You know, that kind of thing.
That, yeah, it depends on how much is it worth it to you? You know, how much work do you want to put into it? If you're already putting a lot of work into it and you believe in like what you're growing, you know, unfortunately inorganic fungicides are like the best choice. Like I mentioned earlier, there's some research around eucalyptus oil. I cannot confirm this, but there's been some studies around eucalyptus oil. So that might be also a possibility, but separation is key. You know, if you start seeing, you know, like you have to like get in there as soon as you can. Best time to check is before, you know, like the season's kind of starting, before you start seeing them like poking up. The sooner you get it, the faster. Yes, that would be the best. You could also introduce beneficial nematodes. So you can purchase them through stores, or if, you know, making your own compost actually attracts them. So they go out and they kill other nematodes. That's what they do. So they look like little other clear worms. They're a little bit bigger, and they like shoot their tail at them and they stab them. Something that's interesting that I've wanted to try, because I also do mushroom cultivation, is I want to grow oyster mushrooms. Oyster mushrooms also eat nematodes. They also eat the bad guy nematodes. So, you know, might be, again, experiment. You know, this is like the big thing, is like experiment. You can do a Clorox solution, kind of like you dip your, I'm trying to remember like the exact, I think it's like maybe like 1 to 10 mixture. So you take your huli, you dip it in the Clorox, and then that will, you know, potentially kill it. It is a method that's used throughout Hawaii. It's like, you know, like probably like the most, it was the thing that I saw the most that people said to like getting rid of blight for newer. So it's up to you. I think it's worthwhile trying. I mean, the Clorox is not gonna kill you, you know.
Thank you very much. Mari, do you have any questions you have?
I don't. I just love listening. I mean, so, you know, in a future session, hopefully we can talk about, you know, what to do to prepare for the next season, or to getting the Kalo ready and all that kind of stuff. So you did touch on it in the beginning a little bit, but just, you know, I do want to learn more about how to sustain them and putting the house on top of it, so that we don't have to put them to rest at the end of the season. So yeah. What is it that you use to cover yours, to keep them
So
growing?
you can use agricultural plastic, or you can buy little kits that they sell at, like, you know, like Bimart or Walmart. Those are way cheaper than buying agricultural plastic, because agricultural plastic, you got to buy them like 100 feet in a section. You can also, like, I used to use, since I do construction, I would always just reuse all the plastic that I would use, like for construction. 4 mil, you know, is like the minimum you want to do. So you can purchase those like fairly short rolls. there's a lot of like, oh, it doesn't get the exact amount of like light refraction. You know, I don't think it's like a big deal. But you can also use that. They're a lot cheaper. And I see that Lei also dropped Turbo Cleanse. What's this? Is this a spray as well? Super Stain Fighter. For Kalo. Oh, awesome.
Is that what you put on yours, Lei?
What is that? I thought you were just making a joke. Turbo Cleanse is an actual thing.
Oh, actually, we also learned on our tea leaf, you can do the turbo. You can clean that too. I don't know, but because all the little white bugs is talking about, it comes onto your tea leaf, our la'i, especially when it's inside. When it's inside, somehow the ants just bring them, but we ain't got ants, so they appeared. And yeah, so our grandma and our sister's friend also told us about, you can also do that with like rubbing alcohol. I know this is gonna sound really funny, but if you sit there and wipe all your plants, which we do, because the la'i is my, and so we sit there and wipe all of our la'i, and if you see my mom's little baby plants, she has pikake. What does she have growing? Her pikake, her plumeria, her anthurium, and then we have our la'i, and she sits there and she wipes every single leaf and stem. But you know what? She has like pikake flowers, just fragrance all over our house. So
gotta love the dedication. Yeah, I mean, especially inside, because you don't have any native predators. Like you're gonna have a higher instance of bad insects. I feel I'm pretty lucky with my tea leaves. I never had any issue. I don't know why. I might curse myself now just because I said that out loud. But they've been pretty good. I just put them outside because it's been nice. It's been absolutely beautiful. So get them growing.
Our tea leaf are bougie. At home, our tea leaves are in the sun, right? And so we took our plants from one side and we took it to the other side with their sun, and it didn't like it. And it was just like, it started to just like kind of crumble. And we were like, oh my gosh. So we took it back to where it's kind of like, there's some sun, but it's shaded. There's like this little shaded area, and they love it there. And I was like, we have bougie tea leaf planted. Like they just were like, no, we don't like sun. We need a little bit of shade. So now they're doing good.
It's temperamental, huh?
A good way to transition them from shade is you put them in part shade first, and like for 3 days, and then you slowly introduce them more to more sun. I do grow a lot of, like, I have a lot of plants that I do bring inside. Like, again, for example, like my tea, I bring in my uhi, so I grow like ube, and that's able to do fine finishing itself off indoors. What other stuff that I grow? I got this one really cool plant that's called chaya. It's related to papaya, and you eat the leaves, and like the leaves are like super greens. But yeah, I also bring those inside. But yeah, it's like slowly introduce them. Otherwise, the others like scorch or like, I burn. But if they're happy where they are, let them stay.
Yeah.
You don't have to move them.
Yeah, they hang out, and it's really weird because our grandma grows hinahina. When I say she grows hinahina, she has like a forest of hinahina at home on Oahu in Kaneohe because there's a lot of wind. And so for some reason, our hinahina has been outside by the tea leaf even through the winter, and it's still alive. It's still green. It's still growing. And so we just leave them all together because, yeah, I think when we separated them, they're like, no, my friends. That's why they're like, bring back my friends. So yeah.
So this is just a beginning, Heifara, as I know Mari and I have been talking about, getting like a group together or whatever, Kalo in the Northwest, and creating a group that will be doing like sharing of information and sharing of plants. I might need some, I think. So, Oops. So, that kind of a group, and maybe even going to each other's backyards and, and talking about it, and having, we have all kinds of ideas to do to get it started, because people are interested in growing their traditional foods. And we thank you very much for sharing that. I would like for you to end and talk about, now you've been talking about the gardening and all that information. I want you to talk about the spiritual meaning of all of this to you, and to some of our listeners that, might not have grown up with Kalo and some of the plants we're talking about that we have some traditional, connection to. I would like for you to end it with talking about that part of why you're growing these things from the traditional and the spiritual way.
Yes, well, definitely when it comes to Kalo, I mean, it's Hāloa. It's our older brother. We have to take care of our kapuna. We take care of them. They take care of us. That is the cyclical of life. That is like one of the driving things for Kalo. It's been there before us and will be there after us. I think that's absolutely beautiful. The importance of growing your native foods. I mean, it's not just because you want to. I mean, that's great to want to grow your own foods, but it is part of our culture. It is part of our origin stories. It's part of our who we are. And much like you were mentioning with like the importance of Camas, Camas is a representation for Kalapuya people, for people of the Grand Ronde, and for them, seeing like environmental degradation, especially when it comes to like mining or foresting or like deforestation. That's just like the kind of like the similar stories for us, for island people. We see people who've destroyed, for example, like what Waikiki was, in like the, in the 1940s versus what Waikiki is now. It tries to separate you. It tries to make you not you. It tries to make you assimilate. And so it is important for us to have that food sovereignty, to carry on our stories, to carry on the knowledge, especially even being part of the diaspora, is to share that knowledge and to share the language around it. And song is beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
It is, and we all agree with you 10 times over and over and over. Thank you very much. So hey, we might have to be calling each other here, or and helping us, maybe helping us develop a program or develop a way of going about and sharing with not only our friends here in Oregon, but also our friends up in the Seattle area with the other Hawaiian Civic Club and all the other Hawaiian groups. And I know all the way down to Ashland. We have a lot of friends that live up in there. So, developing that, it's a big lift, but like you say, just dive right up. Let's just dive in. And, I can be a nematode expert after I get done with this. I can be the one you can come to. And I was like, yep. So, that's how we all kind of learn. We just learn. And I really, really appreciate it. And thank you to Lei and Mari for listening to your talk. And I listened to it too. And you had a lot of great native indigenous plants on there too, that I have a salmonberry growing in my backyard. So I hope I can get some salmonberries. So it's good to also know about some of these indigenous plants of the people here, and also adding that in your garden too. We'd like to have something a little more robust. So I think, that kind of thing is our dream. And if you want to help us achieve that dream, come on over. We'd like to have that. So from, I know a part of Madi, if you want to say thank you, mahalo. And Madi, if you'd like to say some ending words, and then aloha, and then we'll say aloha to our friends.
Thank you. Yeah, our true dream is to be able to grow enough to share with the community. We had, for Easter, we do food distribution here in Vancouver, Washington. And for the Easter meal, we were able to distribute leaves, the kalo leaves, to the Pacific Islander community. Everybody who received a bag was so thankful. And the joy that we saw in everyone's face when they saw the green leaves in the bags, it was just, it's so amazing. So, that is our hope, is to be able to produce enough that we can share with the community, and we're making strides to get there. Thank you to Auntie Donna Ching for her assistance in making that happen as well. So fingers crossed, we'd love to work with you to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And so thank you for joining with us, and we look forward to working with you some more. So thank you.
Both your gardens are absolutely beautiful. You guys are doing great.
You're too kind. Well, you should come over now. It doesn't look like that right now. That's why I said, maybe you need to come over and say, oh, sister, you got to do something here, man.
That's why we didn't share our garden, because then it just would have been like, what are you guys doing? We don't know. We don't know.
Planted the huli upside down.
Well, that did happen last year, because when they came in, it didn't like really have a. We were like, what side do we plant it on? I don't know. But the huli that we got in from Hawaii, thank goodness that we didn't grow that backwards. But it was interesting because I had never grown this different kalo that they have up here. So, but it has been interesting. And so one of our programs this side that we do is our Hāloa. It's called Hāloa, and it's our youth program, and we call it Hāloa because of the meaning of Hāloa and that whole perspective of the next generation and that whole idea of like, you know, they will be here when we are not. And so it's a summer program, and it's cultivating the next generation. So you'll definitely be getting more calls from Mari and I, and hope that you will participate in our Hāloa program. Not that we want to put you on the spot live, but I mean, so. but you know,
we are.
We're like that. But mahalo nui loa for joining us. I know, you know, on such a fast turnaround to be a part of this. And again, we're Kalo for that reason. Like, we value and we know the importance of Kalo to our cultures. And so again, mahalo to everybody who's here. Mahalo Auntie Louise, mahalo Mari, and of course mahalo Heifara for sharing your knowledge. And I hope that we get to partner with you more and be able to build Kalo here for everybody. So mahalo.
I mean, that's the dream, right? That's what I would want to see, you know, especially during times of COVID. You know, if it's easy to feel like you're so alone, but I'm very like thrilled to meet other people who are growing Kalo. It's like, it's so exciting. It's like, I never thought it would happen. Never thought it would happen. So this is a great thing.
Thank you, everybody, and goodbye. Have a great, now everybody can get out in their gardens, and I'm going out right now and take, I may be calling you saying, I got your email. There you go. I do have your email. Okay. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Keep in tune to what's going on our Kalo page. We may have some other things posted, and, you know, pictures, and maybe we have some starts, and you can join us, sign up to come and get some, and we'll hopefully get that going as soon as we can. So thank you. Have a great afternoon, and thank you, everybody.
Put that on our website for some starts if they want to reach out to us for some starts.
Yeah. Aloha. Yes.
Aloha. Mahalo. Ahui ho.